when I wasn't having fun, my work was flat, and I was not happy, and I felt I'm a good person, I'm a hard worker, I want to do these things, and so I would punish myself and say, well, I'm going to tough it out, and I'm going to stay in here and do this regardless. And this is not like studying Spanish, where you learn some vocabulary words on cue cards, and after an hour, you know, as, almost ace on, you know, in terms of conjugations. And so it took a long time for me to enjoy it. And what I enjoyed about sewing, pasting, and gluing is it slowed me down. And in slowing down, in terms of making what I made, it gave me an opportunity to see and to enjoy, and as opposed to what I call a dabber. A dabber is someone who mixes the color and they dab, 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 dab. And as opposed to using their arm and letting the color do what it does and learning how to dip and move. And I was moving much too fast, and again, not enjoying it. And the things looked not only stiff and contrived, but it looked like how I was feeling, uncomfortable. And that's not a terrible thing, but it was a thing that was holding me back. And so once I started having fun and not taking it so seriously and worrying about how many things I was making and how long they would take me to make, the circumstances became a lot better, and I didn't concern myself with how long things were taking. The other thing that came to light is when I became less serious, but I always had a pad or something to draw on, I was able to gather more information for things to use in further projects without thinking about what am I going to work on or do, whether it be a corner of a room or a window or a plant. And what's helped me, regardless of how organic or abstract these things get, is I find for me it's much better to ground myself with a subject and then build from the subject, because then I have an armature and a place to start and a reference. And then sometimes when I get stuck, I look at other artists' work that are using a related subject, whether it be looking at skies, whether it be looking at boats, whether it be looking at plants, whether it be looking at figures. Because again, what's helped me is I realize I'm telling a story, and the more information I'm able to give to the viewer, the more interesting it becomes for me to make what I'm making.
So how you cut out your items and you use is also part of the shape of how you cut it, and
Exactly.
that's part
Exactly.
of the initial design.
Yes.
It's not just cutting the item, outlining what's there. It's
Right,
also-
and you can also use a pattern to cut, and sometimes I will trace and use the same pattern as I cut out and rhyme the pieces in the design itself. So I brought in an artist named Ang, and I was going to show Victoria this painting, which is an odalisque, and it's called the Grand Odalisque, and it's representational, but it's not anatomically right. But he exaggerates form and he rhymes form, and it's a reclining figure, and it's right up the alley of what's going on here.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So you got the head, she pushes through, you've got the shapes, you've got the pillow that anchors, you've got this thing that goes through this way, and that pushes that way, and everything is totally thought out as he does what he does. Little blue form that opens that up as far as the design, and it rhymes here, goes through these little triangular shapes. This pushes this way, this pulls down that way. This is a little corner triangle. He's got a triangle here. So none of this is accidental. It's totally conceived as far as pattern. Here's another similar but more complicated. Again, pattern, variety, a beautiful still life pattern. And you've got shapes, corners, straights, curves. Thing goes through a straight line. So this is a square, and then there's another square here, and they use a grid called the golden mean, and there's a geometry to these things. And you say, well, what is all that? And what all that is when they use these different things, it becomes like a link in a chain where one adds to the other. And this is, I drew a grid, this grid over this painting, where it's actually based on the geometry and the design of doing the figure. And again, you can see a little open space, and how this goes through the center, and how he rhymes things with little flowers, and how she becomes like a Madonna, and how this hand just shoots down and this shoots over. And is this going this way and that going that way. And then this shape kind of rhymes her face if you flip it up. And so you'd say, well, how do you know this? And what happens is I look at a lot of art, and then you take from the art and you can make it part of your art in terms of elements of design, where if you didn't have this, but now he opens it up and it pulls this over by having this little shot of blue. Then he has this beautiful thing here, and the hand kind of echoes this. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This goes this way, that goes that way. This goes that way. So he's got these curves going on throughout this piece. I brought your color.
I wasn't sure.
So,
Right, okay,
what
that's
you're
fine.
going to do is, it should be palettes around.
Yeah, there's one over there. I took a sheet.
Okay, so you're going to mix some color.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do before you apply the color is actually have a cheat. Take some paper and paint it, even cut it out and put it on and see how you like it, just to get going. You don't have to do that. If you're comfortable and you
Well,
wanna
you know-
start to paint.
No, actually, what I was going to ask you is, I was going to lighten this up, but put a wash with
Okay, so
some
you-
of, you know, so that I would darken a little bit here and a little bit there, so that when
Give it
I,
pattern.
but I still want to be able to see, that's why I said a wash.
Okay, so if you
And then-
dilute matte medium
Yeah,
with your color, it's gonna make it transparent.
okay.
And then water it down, and you can do that on that,
Yeah, okay.
and
sounds
that's
good.
going to do it.
So yesterday, it was basically a foundation of pattern and fabric and form, and today you're going to paint over it to make it to the next level? Is that what we're doing today?
In art terms, and I'm going to start giving you a dictionary of art terms so that when you talk about what you talk about, not only to people that ask you about what you're doing, but to other artists. When you lay a foundation, it's called a ground. A ground is the surface you're working on. And so yesterday, first session, we're preparing a ground. And what that is you're covering the surface. You're making a composition. Composition is a design of forms, objects, and ideas. And the only way to do what you do is to start and do it. There isn't a right or wrong. It's intuitive. All of this stuff is intuitive. And the more you allow yourself to do and have fun doing it, the stronger they're going to be as you develop what you're doing. So what I'm going to show you is how to glue it, cut, put, and then we're going to move forward as we do what we do. I'm going to